Experiencing 100 parallel universes. Today's life. Daughter of a top billionaire. The day you were born, your father bought full-page ads in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal with only one line of headline space. Your mother stayed in the top floor suite of New York's most expensive private hospital. The whole of Central Park beyond the window. The nurses said a first lady had once stayed in this suite. Your mother said the mattress still wasn't soft enough. Your 1-month banquet was held at a private Fifth Avenue club. The invitations hand-gilded, only 100 sent out. Those who didn't receive one felt humiliated. Those who did took it for granted. Your childhood unfolded at the family estate in the Hamptons. A private beach, a horse paddock, and a cottage built just to hold your toys.
At 7, you said you wanted a penguin. Your father nearly called an Antarctic research station, then settled on a life-sized penguin plush. You said that would do.
There were 3 butlers in the household. One managed your schedule, one your wardrobe, and one was there only to hand you a handkerchief when you cried. Only later did you learn that other families had no butlers at all. At 9, you said you wanted to see what school was like. Your father bought a seat on a private school's board of directors. On the first day, the principal waited for you personally at the gate. You found school rather fun, just puzzled why everyone treated you with such careful courtesy. Later, you learned that before enrollment, your father's lawyers had signed a confidentiality agreement with the school. Your 10th birthday gift was a racehorse, the kind that had placed 3rd at the Kentucky Derby. You said you couldn't ride. Your father said it didn't matter. The horse's job now was just to stroll the estate and bask in the sun with you. At 12, you suddenly wanted to learn to cook. Your father built a new kitchen in the backyard and brought in a 3 Michelin star chef to teach you. Your first steak came out blacker than the plate. The chef called it the most creative cooking he'd ever seen. Your father photographed that burnt steak and set it as his phone wallpaper. At 13, you told a friend you wanted to visit Disneyland Paris. Your father said it was too far, then dined with Disney's CEO the next day. A month later, Disney announced it would scout a new park site near New York. You never waited for that day, because you'd already gone to Paris yourself. At 14, you wanted to ski, so your father booked out an entire 5-star hotel in Aspen. You weren't much into skiing, but you loved the fireplace in the lobby. You spent a week by that fire drinking hot cocoa and learned to roast marshmallows along the way. At 15, you grew interested in modern art, so your father bought an entire Chelsea Street of galleries and said you could hold any show you liked. You asked, "What if no one comes?" He said, "Then close the doors, look at the art alone, no crowds to push through."
You went to Stanford to study art history, drawn by the California sun. Your father bought a mountain next to the campus. You said you only needed an apartment. He said the hilltop view was better. You could see the whole campus. You went to take a look. It really was quite nice. In the library, you met a boy, a computer science PhD student, the kind who'd earned a full scholarship on his own. He fixed your laptop once, then offered you coffee, cold brew poured from his own thermos. You said it was the best coffee you'd ever had. You didn't quite get it, but you thought he was adorable. The kind of adorable that has no idea how adorable it is. Your father, of course, had him investigated. He checked the published papers, the advisor reviews, even the commit history on GitHub. When he finished, he said, "This kid writes very clean code." That was the highest praise he ever gave. The first time you brought him home for dinner, he said he'd do the cooking. He used kitchen tools you couldn't even name and laid out a table of American home-style dishes. Your father took a bite of his Wellington, fell silent for a long while, then said, "It was better than that 3 Michelin star chef." You nearly dropped your fork. It was the highest praise your father had ever given. He proposed with his grandmother's ring, an old style, the diamond small. He said it was the most precious thing he'd ever seen. You said, "I know." Later, your father said it was the highest return investment he'd ever seen. An old ring had carried off the most valuable asset of his life. The wedding was held on the California coast. Your father booked the entire coastline, inviting only family and closest friends, because you said you didn't want a spectacle. He walked you across the sand without a single word. You held his hand tightly. You remembered how he taught you to ride a bike as a child, the same way, silently following behind. After the wedding, your father gave you a letter that read, "You are the best investment I've ever made." Not because of who you married, nor because of your degree, but because from a young age you always knew what you wanted. From now on, your life is still yours to decide.
Being wealthy just lets you choose a little more freely. At 26, you founded your own art fund. Not because you needed a job, but because you loved helping young artists hold shows. You backed a freshly graduated painter who later won the Turner Prize. When reporters asked his secret, he said someone gave him a check back when he couldn't even draw a straight line. You said no need to thank me. He said it wasn't the check, it was you, who said, not bad, when everyone else called his work garbage. On your father's 60th birthday, you gave him a painting you made yourself, the stretch of beach behind the estate. He looked at it a long while, hung it on his office wall, and moved the Monet that had been there out to the hallway. You had a daughter. When your father held her, he was even gentler than when he'd held you. He said this child can do whatever she wants someday. You said he'd said the same of you. He replied, right, and you turned out well. When your daughter turned 5, you taught her to ride a bike. You ran behind, holding the seat a long while. The moment you let go, she rode off a dozen meters before turning back, laughing loudly. And suddenly you understood what your father had felt, following behind all those years ago. You still visit the gallery 3 times a week, sitting in a corner of the hall, watching the art, the people, and the sunlight crawling slowly across the wall. A young artist asked you what your standard for collecting was. You said there was no standard. If you liked it, that was enough. He said that was far too subjective. You said the good thing about being rich is you get to be subjective. When you were born, your father bought entire newspaper pages. At your wedding, he said nothing on the sand. Now you sit in your own gallery, looking at the work of new painters. You let no one's expectations down, because you never saw them as expectations. You simply happened to be born into a very wealthy family, and used that wealth to do exactly what you most wanted to do.